Do you know of anyone who preached a message of liberation, believed he was a god, and he was killed by the Romans? But many of his followers thought even in death he was invincible. No, I'm not talking about Jesus of Nazareth. I'm talking about Maricus of Gaul. Maricus was a Gaelic peasant who claimed to be a god and led an uprising against the Romans. And his story is a very interesting one. The year was 68 AD. Nero had committed suicide the previous year, and the new emperor Galba had just been assassinated by the Praetorian Guard after a mere 8 months in the job. Now, the reason they killed him is because Galba failed to give them a generous donative, a bit of a pay rise or a bonus. As a result of that, Marcus Salvius Otho had been named as the new emperor, and he was quite happy to pay off the Praetorians. In fact, there's a very good chance he probably put them up to getting rid of old man Galba. But not everyone was happy with the new administration. Not everyone was happy to have Otho, one of Nero's old drinking buddies, as the new imperial supremo. One guy who wasn't terribly happy about it was a senator called Vitellius, a guy so fat and rotund he probably could have had the nickname Obesius. He refused to recognize Otho as the new emperor, and Vitellius, fat guy or not, was commander of the legions on the Rhine, one of the most important commands in the Roman Empire. So he had a considerable army behind him. He was also very popular with the troops. Vitellius was more into feasting 4 times a day than the hard work of soldiering. So it's kind of like, hey guys, put down those swords and come help me eat these 6 swans I've got roasting over here. And, because there was a revolving door of emperors, they had Nero, then Galba, now they've got Otho, and maybe the Rhine legions thought to themselves, hey, why not our guy? We might be committing treason, but if this comes off, we're going to live like kings and we'll have free lunches forever. So spurned on by his troops, Vitellius began his march towards Italy, but he got slowed down. Not because he was a hefty El Jefe, but because he came across a Gaelic peasant named Maricus who sort of got in his way. Now, Maricus was not running defense for Otho or for the Roman Senate. No, much to the contrary, like many tribes, he realized that a Roman civil war and a Roman power vacuum was a terrible thing to waste. And look, we don't know a lot about Maricus. All we know is that he was from a Boian tribe somewhere in Cisalpine Gaul, kind of like on the border between northern Italy and modern-day France. And while Vitellius was garrisoned in Lugdunum, out in the nearby countryside, Maricus declared himself a king and a living god of the old Celtic deities, and he believed he had been called to liberate the Gauls from the yoke of Roman rule. And his message spread fairly successfully at first because he was able to raise an army of 8,000 people with hopes of liberty and plenty. Maricus and his forces sacked several outposts, plundered parts of central Gaul, but he then faced a local militia that was reinforced with a detachment of Vitellius's troops, and they kind of had a pitched battle. Unfortunately for Maricus, god or not, he obviously wasn't a great military commander. Plus, his rabble of Gaelic peasants were no match for trained legions. Maricus was defeated, his ragtag band scattered, and Maricus himself was taken as prisoner. Vitellius decided to have Maricus executed in the local amphitheater, probably in Lugdunum. The problem was that the animals put in the arena with him refused to kill Maricus, almost as if it was a execution miracle, which led many of the Gallic crowd to think that maybe Maricus was divine, maybe he was invincible. But before anyone got too carried away with divine dreams, Vitellius had Maricus executed just to make clear he was not really God, and So the divine king of the Gauls came to a somewhat gruesome end. Funny enough, eventually Vitellius would be defeated by another general, a Roman general, operating under the auspices of divine sponsorship. Josephus, the Jewish historian, when captured by the Romans, when he was captured by the Eastern Roman general Vespasian, who was sent to subdue Judea, he said that Vespasian was destined to rule the world as Caesar. According to Josephus, this is what he said to Vespasian. He said, "You will be Caesar, Vespasian. You will be emperor. You and your son here, bind me then yet more securely in chains, and keep me for yourself. For you, Caesar, are master not only of me, but of land and sea and the whole human race. For myself, I ask to be punished by stricter custody if I have dared to trifle with the words of God." So there we go. Vitellius confronted one peasant god in France or northern Italy, and then he was defeated in the Roman Civil War in the year of the four emperors by Vespasian, who Josephus says was an agent or servant of the God of the Jews. So there you go. Interesting story about Maricus, a peasant, rebel, and god of Gaul standing up to the Romans. Hey, I hope you liked that short story about Maricus of Gaul, a peasant who claimed to be a god and took on the Romans but sadly lost. I find it interesting because it's got a lot of analogies with Jesus of Nazareth in some ways. So someone claiming to be divine in the ancient world, it's not exactly as out of left field as we might think it is. But if you enjoyed that episode, you might enjoy some other things on the channel as well. Videos about Gnosticism, the Didache, the Epistle to Diognetus, or some of the things I do on church, gender and culture, even a little bit of political theology, and a playlist called Nazareth to Nicaea, where I talk about the origins of early Christianity and especially early Christology. So if you're liking what you see, hit the subscribe button, like, share, leave a comment, and I hope to see you around the channel.